Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video for the day. We're going back into r/Tales of Neckbeard, and also as a good news, this should be the last of the videos I need to re-record because of the whole error with my audio equipment. So, I hope you guys have a great time, I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you want to be awesome, support the channel, just like, comment, and if you have not already, subscribble, start up them wholesome internet discussions, Lego. Running into my old Neckbeard classmate in the workplace. So, this story starts off a few years ago while I was still in high school, but it reaches its, hopefully, conclusion just last year. It's gonna be a bit long, so I'll just get right into it. Back in school, I was quiet and kept to myself. I wasn't one to approach others and make friends, letting others approach me if they so chose. Not many people did, but that was okay. Those that did were typically pretty nice, but I never really sprouted into any friendships. That was until I met Nick in my junior year of high school. Now for a visualizer. I'm Korean, very small back then, and presented as pretty feminine. Long hair, cute glasses, pretty clothes that conform to a strict dress code. Not quite uniform, it's just that they had to be proper, I guess is the best way to describe it. Nick was average height and build for a white guy, shaggy, mid-length hair, and wore plain slacks and a polo shirt. I didn't know him prior to junior year at all, so I didn't have the faintest idea of what I was getting into when I let him strike up our first conversation. He was very polite when he introduced himself, so I reciprocated. We mostly talked about the previous school year and our goals for the upcoming year. Just normal, friendly chit-chat. The next few weeks were just conversations about how classes were going and how we were adjusting getting back into our regular schedule. For someone who didn't really have close friendships, it was really nice to have someone I could just talk with about little things. Gradually, we talked more and more about our interests outside of school. We both liked to draw, we liked anime, and we liked the same movies. Sure, he was a little weird, but there was nothing inherently off-putting. Well, I guess he got really comfortable after those first few weeks, and he asked me where I was from. Me, being the idiot I am, answered with the town I was born in, which wasn't the town I lived in. He laughed as if I had told the funniest joke he'd ever heard, and asked, "No, what country?" Oops, my bad. When I told him I was from Korea, he scrunched his nose and after a moment of silence said, "I guess that's okay." Now, this was definitely weird to hear, but I didn't think too much of it. The next few days were uneventful and normal until he came up to me after class and asked, "What is your ideal type?" I didn't know what this meant, so I asked him to clarify. He often said, "What is your ideal type of a guy? You're Korean, and you don't know what that means?" I was shocked. His tone had an aggressive feel to it, and I didn't like it. I wasn't a confrontational person at the time, so I just opted for an apology. I said I was sorry, and that I had never heard a question like that before. He said, "It's a common question over there." "What do you mean?" I informed him that while I was born there, I was raised in the Midwest United States by a white family. I knew virtually nothing about the culture or life over there. I was very much an American just like he was. He seemed very disappointed in that answer and walked off before I could actually answer his questions. The next few days carry on as if nothing happened, so I quickly forgot about the incident. He eventually approached me again and asked me the same question, so I responded this time, sweet, livelier than me but not over the top, strong, very basic traits. He hardly let me finish answering before starting on his own about his own ideal type. "Pretty, very feminine, quiet and shy, clingy and loyal." The list got so specific and long, I couldn't keep up until he said what really caught my attention. "Japanese women are my ideal women, but Korean is, okay." I didn't know how to respond. I know that he would have even given me time before going on again. He goes on about how Asian women are submissive and quiet and will do anything to please their husband or boyfriend. How they know their place below their man. When I tried to tell him that was a misinformed stereotype, he cut me off and said, "You wouldn't even know. You were raised by white people." I was so shocked that I couldn't even think of how I should respond, so I just walked away from him. He approached me the next day and showed me a photo on his phone of either a Korean singer or actor and asked if I thought that he was attractive. I said that I did, and he immediately flew into a rant about how Korean men are a-holes and disrespectful to their women, and how they don't deserve beautiful women and kind Korean women. This was the same guy who the day before talked about how Asian women know their place below men, and how they're pretty much subservient to them. I told him such a sweeping generalization was incredibly ignorant, but he refused to accept it. I told him I didn't want to hear it, and he walked away. Now around this time, I had started getting close to another classmate from a class of mine, Caleb, after we were paired up for a class assignment. He was an intimidating looking guy, very tall, and already had quite a bit of facial hair for a teen. To top it off, he just looked like he was always mad. He wasn't the type of guy I'd approach on my own had I have not been paired up with him. He was shy and super sweet, a teddy bear built like a brick wall as far as I'm concerned. I adored him in every way, and we quickly caught on to each other. We started dating soon after Nick's rant about Korean men, so it was a good enough excuse for me to start distancing myself. I didn't outright tell him I was with Caleb, and instead told him that I was just too busy for studying to talk online. Which wasn't a full lie. Caleb and I usually only ever hung out to study, with a few outings together here and there. A very chill relationship. When he did eventually figure it out for himself, he went on a rant to me on Facebook, complaining that women only ever date a-holes, and that I've clearly been brainwashed by American dating culture because I didn't choose the right guy that would care for me like my culture would have told me to. I don't know where he was getting all of these ideas about Asian women, but it freaked me the hell out. I told him I was done talking to him and to leave me soon. He did, for the most part, completely avoiding me in school, but occasionally complaining to me about my relationship online. Eventually, I did just block him. After that, I didn't really have any issues with him. I didn't really see him much after school, thanks to moving to a nearby town. Fast forward several years, and I've since changed my name and looked nothing like I did in high school. So, when Nick ended up being hired in the same job at me, I figured he wouldn't even recognize me. Caleb and I broke up in high school, on good terms, and after a few years, even he didn't recognize me after seeing me about a year or so prior. Well, I was wrong. He approached me the first day he noticed and said, "Your name is Old Name, right?" I shook my head and said no and told him my new name. He seemed to accept my answer and walked away. Cool, bullet dodged. Wrong. He came up the next day and asked if we went to school together. Again, I shook my head. He could have sworn that my name was Old Name. Again, I told him my name. He shrugged it off and left. Keep in mind, he wasn't even under the same supervisor as me and had no actual business in my workspace. So I knew he was only approaching me because it was me. He kept trying, even outside of work, whenever he happened to see me running errands. Small town, everyone shops at the same store. He would always address me by my old name and try to talk to me no matter how many times I told him my new name. It is Korean, and that I wasn't interested in talking to him. I swear, if he knew how to spell my new name, he would have found my new social media accounts and harassed me there too. Eventually, I went to my supervisor about the issue, but all he said was that he'll talk to Nick's supervisor about it. I never heard anything about it after that. This behavior went on for about 6 months before he was let go, albeit not for the constant harassment. He no longer lives in the same city as me. from what I've heard from other coworkers is that he had spoken with him. So maybe I won't have to deal with him again. So far, so good. If somebody don't want to talk to you, they don't have to talk to you. And for some reason, it really does kind of suck that there are people that find that hard to, register in their system. It's like, hey, do I know you from anywhere? No, actually, I don't know you. Are you sure? Yes, I'm very sure. Drop it. Clingy Neckbeard. This happened 15-ish years ago. I'm not sure if he's really a neckbeard or maybe just really clingy, but I thought it'd fit here anyways. I, 30F, 15 at the time, met this guy, Neckbeard, NB for short, a few years older than me, 17 or 18 at the time, online. I don't remember if it was on Facebook or on Gaia Online, but it was one of the two. I was a lonely, quiet, reserved kid, so online friendships were my only source of friendships. We talked on and off for a few years, always planning to meet, but never did. He only lived a couple hours from me, but I was a teenager. Then I met my boyfriend at the time, husband now, we'll call him A, and stopped talking to NB until the year in between high school and college. I worked at a call center and made friends with this girl, S, who, it turns out, was dating NB. Small world. NB convinced S to drive me a couple of hours to meet him and hang out with the both of them. I didn't think it was a big deal at the time. I was 18-ish, but A didn't want me to go alone, so he hopped in the car with us. When we got to NB's, definitely confirmed neckbeard in looks at this point, fedora, and chains included, I immediately felt oddly uncomfortable. He introduced me to his parents, his pets, etc., but he was ignoring A and X the entire time. But he kept trying to get me alone. He finally managed after A went down to the car to get something, and I was on the receiving end of the longest, most uncomfortable hug I have ever experienced in my life. NB also was going on about how much he missed me, etc., etc. We didn't stay long because S and I had to work the next day, and we left. A year or so later, I started college, and a few months after getting married. NB emailed me, and my email signature had my married last name plus the college course I was taking. He immediately began questioning me on what my signature meant. Me, being kinda oblivious, just replied that for school-related emails they wanted the signature to say what course we were taking, but he replied back that he meant my last name. I was excited to tell him that I had gotten married and that I was so happy. NB had been my friend at one point and we talked a lot, so I wanted to tell him the good news. After a couple of more emails where he told me him and S broke up, I didn't hear anything. A couple of years after that, I got an email from NB asking how everything was going and was I still with A. I told him great, and yes, I was still with A. I heard nothing back. At this point, I thought it was kind of weird, and I mentioned it to A, and he said that NB was checking in to see if I was single yet. I thought A was just seeing it in the wrong light, but whatever. After that one conversation, we didn't mention NB again. Cue to a few years after that when I randomly get an email from NB asking if I was still with A again. I told him yes, and asked him how he was going. He told me he split up with someone, so he was kind of depressed. I told him that he would be fine and that there is someone out there for everyone. Platitudes, of course, though I do really believe that. Then he goes on about how he let his soulmate slip through his fingers and the girl for him was already with someone else. Well, then I kinda believed A. I get A to come read the email, and he told me to tell NB to stop messaging me. I don't like confrontation, so I didn't want to. I messaged NB on Facebook and told him to stop messaging me. That we are happy and not going to separate so we could stop his check-in emails. NB denied it, of course, but I haven't heard from him since, so it worked. Maybe A was just reading it wrong and that wasn't NB's intentions, but it was still weird. Oh, I just realized how long this was, but 15 years is a long time to cover. LOL. Thank you for reading. It's really weird that every so years someone will just either be constantly thinking about it or just randomly have it in their mind. Hey, I wonder if that person is single or not. Maybe I should send one of those weird check-in emails. Really, it's the weirder the more you think about it, and I don't like the fact that that thought process exists. A nasty neckbeard at DragonCon apparently thinks that cosplay equals consent. First post on Reddit, but a longtime lurker. After watching YouTube videos and reading shorts, not gonna lie, I was kinda hoping that I'd be able to spot a neckbeard in public, but holy shit did I get my wish and more. The actual story, DragonCon 2019 was my first ever convention, and I went with 3 friends. For a while, I've been building up a cool cosplay since cosplayers are amazing and I've wanted to cosplay. This year, I decided to go as Nessa from Pokemon Sword and Shield. I chose her since I'm a black girl and could pull it off very well. I had just gotten my ticket to take a picture with the nicest, most handsome man on earth, David Tennant, and went to his room where a bunch of other stars were taking pictures and signing autographs. A friend and I were walking up to the line where you can meet Kimberly Brooks, the voice of Allura from Voltron, when this obese pale guy who looked like he's in his late 30s, who I'll call Dragonbeard, saw me from another line.
Hey Nessa, can I take a picture with you?
Sure, of course. It was cool since like 20 people already asked to take pictures with me that day. I even got a rose from this traveling bard cosplayer. I felt super flattered. Not bad for a first-time cosplayer, I think. So, as Dragonbeard walked over to me, that's when the stink hit me full force. I thought I smelled something earlier when I walked into the room, but I just assumed it was probably from so many people in one room cosplaying on a sweltering hot Georgia day. I was wrong to an extent. This dude smelled like a bad litter box that was tossed in a garbage can and sat out in the sun for a few days. I regretted agreeing to the photo. Just so you know, this dude had multiple $30 autographs in his hand when he called me out. A boy can at least afford some $1 deodorant or a bar of soap. My mom had taught me to be polite to people and not judge them too quickly. But damn, I just want to tell the guy to take a freaking shower. I remember telling myself that it would be over quickly and it was a quick picture, then I could leave, but no. As he was reaching into the bag to get his camera, Dragonbeard said this.
You know, Nessa was my first crush.
There it is, the red flag. My friend and I were looking at each other and just scared, wide eyes, like, what the frick did he just say? At this point, Dragonbeard had his camera and held out his right arm to take a picture. But then he reached around me and pulled me into his stank butt self. His sweaty hand was on my exposed midriff and was closer to my ass than I was comfortable with. Since I'm a germaphobe and absolutely hate any nasty things touching me, I wanted to jump into a tub of disinfectant and die. But he could have at least asked me before using his nasty hands to press into me against his sweaty, disgusting, horrid smelling folds. Dude's sweaty armpit was right next to my exposed right shoulder and probably leaving revolting sweat prints on me. Sorry if I'm getting descriptive, it's just, it was hell, absolute hell for me. As I forced a smile and tried not to throw up a little in my mouth or have an episode, the guy leans in until his face is like an inch away from mine. End me, please. I washed my face 6 times that night since I felt so dirty afterwards. And then the point where I started getting really scared was when Dragonbeard asked,
Can I give you a little peck on the cheek, Nessie?
As he squeezed my midriff and pulled me a tiny bit closer. Yuck. What the F? Say that I'm 16, and at the point I told him, Dragonbeard raised his eyebrows, shrugged, and said,
So, it's just a little kiss from a cutie.
B, what the? No, red flags everywhere. My friend just stood there terrified, like she was about to cry or scream. My first thought, other than, oh god, he's ped, was to get the heck away from him and scream for some kind of security. I couldn't though because this guy is bigger than me. Who knows what he could do to me before someone could stop him. I was scared out of my mind, so I just stood there paralyzed and in fear and shock and said this, "No thanks." Dragonbeard kind of looked at me for a hot moment like he was gonna go for it anyway. Dear God, I calmed down a little after he said this.
No, okay then.
He snapped 3 pictures, I think, and then released me from his nasty, sweaty, stinky, dirty self. I was pretty sure the smell was probably going to stick with me for the rest of the day, especially while taking a picture with David Tennant, my idol. Damn it. Then Dragonbeard just walked away like it's a normal thing to terrorize someone he knows is underage. I stood there and tried not to cry and make sense in the midst of all of the congoers and voice actors. I went home that night happy that I got a picture with the man I adore, but it was dampened by the fact that this neckbeard probably made me smell like a bad litter box next to him. I stayed in the shower for an hour, but no amount of showering could erase the stink from my memory. At least I finally had a story of my own to tell. TLDR, creepy pet neckbeard pulls me close for a picture and asked me to kiss at him at DragonCon. Left me probably smelling like Dookie when I met David Tennant. I know that there's some kind of online argument about what time of the day is best to shower, and honestly, for me, it all depends on the context, I guess, of what you're doing during the day. Like for myself, if I'm going to a convention and I'm going to be around a whole lot of people, personally, I figure shower before I leave the room, that way I smell nice and fresh when I'm going to be around people, and that's just where I stand on the matter. And really, I can't emphasize this enough, the whole cosplay equals consent thing really does need to be hammered down. There are signs that have been put up at conventions now because of that, because there have been people that for some reason don't really understand that and think that, oh, this person's dressed up in this type of costume. That means I can act however I want around them because hoo, they're in character. I can do whatever I want, for some reason just goes through their mind and thinks that they're perfectly fine. Paper plates aren't a valid cosplay. Just going to apologize for how long this ends up being. It's nothing too terribly interesting, but damn does this still mess with me today. So, I've been cosplaying and going to conventions since I was about 13 years old, and I was a pretty stupid kid. My social awareness was non-existent, and it got me into many of plenty awkward situations that I never really learned from. When I was 15, I attended a con with a close friend from high school who I had been going to cons with alone up to this point. For some reason, our overprotective parents trusted us to go by ourselves to these conventions. But, to their credit, my friend had a really good head on their shoulders and knew what was right from wrong. Unfortunately for her, I'm an idiot. At this con, we both felt like we were old enough to split up because at the time, we were both into different things and had different events we wanted to go to that the other wasn't interested in. This led to us being separated for the majority of the time. This is where I met the Neckbeard. He was roughly 30 years old and also dressed up in cosplay, if you could count wearing a colored paper plate as a mask as dressing up. With him were these 2 other guys who were around my age, ironically enough, attended the same school as me, and despite 4 new friends, I hung out with this group, a 30-year-old Neckbeard guy and all. I never paid the Neckbeard much attention since I was so excited to find people my age who I could finally talk to at school about anime. Like I said before, me and my close friends didn't share the same interests anymore, and all I wanted was someone to talk to about my favorite shows with. At one point during the convention, the Neckbeard suggested we go to a panel that was 18 plus age restricted. Me, being only 15 years old, told him that it was a no-go since I wasn't old enough. His response,
"No, man, you're so hot. I just assumed that you were 22 or something."
Now, I was never attractive as a kid. Chubby gut with baby fat everywhere and not a hint of makeup to try to cover up all the ugly. I was just a slightly taller than average toddler with a weight problem. But I guess this guy didn't care. That should have been my first hint. I just awkwardly laughed off his comment and said, "Thank you," too polite to say anything else. Moving forward, the other 2 guys asked me for my number and Facebook account, which I happily gave out so we could keep in contact and find each other at school. By extension, this meant the Neckbeard got my info too since he was right next to us. I didn't think it was a huge deal. After the convention was over, I was added to a Facebook chat with all of them. Once again, I didn't mind because the two guys who went to my school were in it, and it was an easy way to talk to them. Almost immediately, the Neckbeard private messages me, asked me out on a date. Once again, I stressed that I was 15 and he was 30. Not knowing how else to respond to it, I said, yeah, maybe, hoping that it was just one of those things that gets forgotten about and nothing ever planned. But I was wrong. Not even the next day, he was asking me what time would work out best and what movie we should see together. I panicked, not wanting to actually be alone with this 30-something neckbeard, and I said that probably best excuse a child has. Sorry, my mom said no.
I know you never date online. You're too cool of a girl for that. Honestly, you must have guys at school falling all over you. Well, I'll just have to get to know you better and hope that no one takes you first.
He would say stuff like this constantly. He would throw in gross statements in the middle of group conversations like,
"Oh man, you're such a cool rocker chick. I bet you have guys lining up for your attention." Or, "I'm so sad you probably wouldn't go for a nice guy like me."
And never stopped trying to ask me out. He even went as far as to suggest meeting my mom so she'd feel more comfortable with me going out on a date with him. I seriously wish that I had agreed to that, because my mom would have gone absolute ape dookie on his butt. It didn't get much better from there. In the month following, I became really good friends with the two guys that I had met with him at the convention. Almost immediately after getting home from school, the four of us would all get into a Skype call and talk for hours. I didn't really like the Neckbeard, but he was friends with the other guys, so I just sucked it up and didn't complain. One day, I remember us chilling, doing homework while I was in the call with them, and out of nowhere, the Neckbeard cuts off whoever was talking to ask me,
"What color underwear are you wearing right now?"
Of course, I attempted to laugh it off and do my best to change the subject. I tried to brush it off as one of those LOL so random moments, but not even 10 minutes later, I hear a friend in the call go, "Dude, that is freaking gross." And he was actually pretty upset. Something I'd never seen. I learned out much later that the dude was doing the single-player campaign in the call and texted my friend to tell him about it. Not long after we all went to another convention in the same area, I had seen the Neckbeard during this convention. Despite his constant messages asking me where I was and when we could hang out, unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to keep him away for long. The convention was at a hotel that I had decided that I wanted to take advantage of the pool. So, me and my friends all went separate ways to put on swimsuits. Unbeknownst to me, one of those friends that I had just met, that con, was actually rooming with the Neckbeard and spilled our plans to him. Fast forward an hour and we went swimming. I see the pool door open and there is Neckbeard and all of his half-stuffed glory. We made direct eye contact and I knew he saw me, so I immediately looked away and slammed closer to my close friends as a half-redacted way of hiding and using her as a barrier. But I see him immediately make a beeline towards me, getting in the pool and swimming directly up to me before accidentally bumping into me. He said with a fake surprised, "Oh, my name."
"Is that you? I didn't realize. I thought you were just another hot swimmer."
In his weird robotic voice that made me assume that he'd been practicing it ever since he found out that I'd be swimming. I noped the F out of there and immediately left, friend in tow. Afterwards, I explained everything that was going on, and she gave me a stern talking, which made me realize just how creepy it was for a 30-year-old jobless man who still lives with his mom to be basically stalking a 15-year-old. I spent a lot of time after that worrying about what would happen in the next con if he saw me. Luckily, my prayers had been answered because not long after, this idiot thought it would be a great idea to make a Facebook post that said,
"Can't wait to go to
insert convention name and get all of the underage kitty." And as if that wasn't bad enough, his mother saw the post and banned him from going. This grown-ass man just got grounded. It's 7 years later, and I still see him around at conventions, and I'm filled with this overwhelming, sickening feeling. He hasn't recognized me yet, and I pray he never does because I have no idea what I would say to him. I wish I knew what I do now. I had no idea what a neckbeard or nice guy was, and I was too polite for my own good. I had no idea how to say no, and I feel like all of this could have been prevented. But with that is going to have to be it with the video. If you guys would love to be absolutely amazing, show your support, see more videos like this one in the near future, be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment down below to start up them wholesome internet discussions, and if you guys have not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on them notifications. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye!